Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rena Haryanto, and I am the Program Director of Kppip. In English, it's actually the Committee for Acceleration of Priority Infrastructure Delivery of Government of Indonesia. On behalf of Kppip, we are pleased and honored to take part in the Global PMO Awards. Over the next hour, I will talk about the Kppip PMO and its impact to infrastructure development in Indonesia. To give an overview about the Kppip, or the Committee for Acceleration of Priority Infrastructure Delivery, is formed as a center of excellence for priority infrastructure projects, acceleration and preparation. This effort is actually part of institutional reform of Government of Indonesia to accelerate project delivery in Indonesia. Led by the Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs as the chairman and the Coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs as the vice chairman, other committee members consist of the Minister of Finance, Minister of National Development Planning, Minister of Agrarian Affairs and Spatial Planning, and lastly, the Minister of Environment and Forestry. Kppip is equipped with a Project Management Office or PMO, consisted of professionals coming from private sector. They are the ones who run day-to-day operation of Kppip by conducting the analysis behind the organization decision-making about priority project selection, carrying out the bottlenecking, and developing policy. Kppip portfolio consists of two major groups. One is National Strategic Projects, and second one is Priority Projects. The National Strategic Projects consisted of 245 projects and two programs worth about $327.2 billion, in which 30 projects is worth over $7 billion have been delivered during the period of 2016 and 2017. These projects are considered very important for Indonesia because based on independent study, an empirical evidence shows that the completed projects together with those currently under construction would result in the country achieving up to about 2.16% in growth rate, and it will be increased up to about 7.2% by 2023. Completion of half of the remaining project by 2023 would result in the country achieving 4.52% increase in the growth rate, and this will continue to be increased up to about 9.3% by 2030. Of the national strategic projects, Kppip has developed a screening process and selected priority projects in which Kppip PMO must drive the delivery process. When the process started in 2016, there were 30 priority projects worth up to about $97 billion. And then the list was revised in 2017 and becoming 37 priority projects, which are worth $132 billion. Since it was formed in 2015 and up to 2017, some of the selected Kppip highlighted achievements are: 1 is financial close of the total up to 9,000 megawatt power plants. Number 2 is the preparation of the first toll road using availability payment. Number 3 is the Kppip is managed to resolve land acquisition issue of the largest PPP power plant in Indonesia, which was stuck over 4 years. Lastly, Kppip led the development of the first asset recycling policy in the country. In delivering, Kppip handholds every stakeholders and adds value to accelerate well-prepared infrastructure projects and programs throughout the whole project lifecycle. At the project preparation phase, Kppip cooperates with a number of stakeholders to ensure a good best practice project preparation document is achieved. This is achieved by cooperating with the Indonesian Investment Coordination Board, Ministry of Finance, Minister of National Development Planning, Indonesia State-Owned Infrastructure Financing Company, or known as a PTSMI, Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund, or IIGF, and also with number of private investors and donors. At the project execution, Kppip coordinates with the Ministry of State Secretariat, Cabinet Secretariat, and the Executive Office of the President in monitoring the execution. For the project debottlenecking to ensure smooth progress to achieve completion, Kppip works together with Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs and Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and all the related technical ministries under the two coordinating ministries, and also leverage the private sector expertise. Finally, in conducting the evaluation, Kppip cooperates with the Cabinet Secretariat and Indonesian National Government Internal Auditor in conducting verification of the evaluation result. Throughout the process, Kppip provides a number of value in delivering projects in Indonesia. These values are: number one, developing credible project pipeline for investor. Number two, ensuring the quality of project preparation to be accepted by Ministry of Finance for government support processing as well as by the market. Number three, becoming the one-stop center for the national strategic and priority project monitoring. Number four, becoming the center to accelerate major project delivery by conducting debottlenecking. Number five, becoming the think tank of innovative infrastructure policy. And lastly, conducting media and communication management. If we talk about the history of Kppip, the history of Kppip must be seen not only from the Kppip itself, but from the economic history of the Indonesia as a country. If we look to about the infrastructure in Indonesia, the ratio of Indonesian infrastructure stock value to gross domestic product or GDP has been declining from 49% in 1995 to 38% in 2012. The figure was still far behind India, which is 58%. China, which is 76%, South Africa, 87%, and was still far behind developed countries. If we talk about the investment in infrastructure in Indonesia, the infrastructure in Indonesia is quite deficit, and it was led by far the lesser infrastructure investment in 2008 and 2012 compared to 1995 to 1997. In 1995 to 1997, the average infrastructure investment was more than 7% of GDP, while in 2008 up to 2012, the average infrastructure investment was less than 4%. As an effort to accelerate Indonesian infrastructure development, the government of Indonesia initially established National Committee for Acceleration of Infrastructure Provision, or KKPPI, in 2001. KKPPI was established through the Presidential Decree No. 21, 2001, to formulate strategies, policies, and problem solving related to the acceleration of infrastructure development. Revision through Presidential Regulation No. 42, 2005, and No. 12, 2011, was adding scope and number of members. KKPPI mandates include: number one, setting policy and strategies in the implementation of infrastructure development acceleration. Number two, coordinating the program, planning, and monitoring the implementation of the policies for the acceleration of infrastructure provision. Lastly, the mandate was determining resolution of any issue or problem related to the acceleration of infrastructure provision. KKPPI was given substantial rights to seek information and to carry out consultation. However, through the process, KKPPI was considered ineffective for several reasons, such as: number one, unclear focus. Focus on coordination was not well enough defined. Number two, lack of commitment. Those involved in the committee felt that such coordination could be achieved by other means, not enough attendance on coordination meeting. Number three, lack of decision-making power. No mandate and authority to take over the coordination of the delivery of key projects identified by the committee. Taking such limitation into consideration, Kppip was formed by revitalizing KKPPI in 2014. Kppip was established through Presidential Decree No. 75, 2014. with the main objective of becoming a coordinating unit in decision-making processes to encourage settlement of issues arising from the lack of effective coordination between the various stakeholders. Kppip as the point of contact to facilitate coordination in the bottlenecking efforts for national strategic projects and priority projects. Learning from the unsuccessful predecessor institution, Kppip was established with more empowerment, which are budget allocation, Kppip has established allocation from the CMEA that can be used as financial resources to appoint consultants and advisors to prepare the project. Number two is actually the Kppip is given a clear mandate, including setting a list of priority projects, preparing action plans, carrying out monitoring activities, as well as implementing debottlenecking strategies for priority projects. Other empowerment is on the decision-making power. Kppip has the authority to determine strategies and policies in the infrastructure sector and to determine sources and funding schemes. Lastly, to support the operation, Kppip is given a right to form a PMO. The PMO support function was added to facilitate the performance of Kppip, to ensure involvement from the beginning of the planning so that it can anticipate problems, strengthen coordination, and facilitate various efforts in preparing and resolving problems in the provision of priority infrastructure projects. Talking about the structure of Kppip, the Kppip is chaired by the committee. It is the ministerial level committee who is supported by a collective decision-making team comprising of Echelon 1 officials called the implementation team. The implementation team is chaired by the Deputy Minister of Coordination of Infrastructure and Regional Development Acceleration of the Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs. Then the Coordinating Minister of Economic Affairs, as the chairman of Kppip, is given an authority to form a sectoral working team and an intersectoral working team whenever required. In its implementation, the working team for acceleration of electricity infrastructure delivery has been established in 2015, chaired by the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources. And the working team for acceleration of Bontang refinery development has also been established in 2015, chaired by the Deputy Minister of Coordination of Energy Management, Natural Resources, and Environmental of the Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs. To support the decision-making processes by the implementation team and the committee, Kppip is equipped with Project Management Office, which comprises of professional experts in their respective field. PMO has a responsibility to provide recommendations to the implementation team in the selection and in the implementation of priority projects, as well as in problem solving, a part of the run day-to-day operation of the Kppip. Kppip PMO consists of a program director as the head of PMO, who is tasked to ensure achievement of the Kppip mandate, to provide policy recommendations to the implementation team, to develop Kppip organization itself, to ensure the implementation of the priority project delivery, and to build capacity as well as to improve regulations supporting the priority infrastructure delivery. The program director is supported by a team of senior experts specialized in toll road, port, airport, railway, energy and electricity, water resources, and finance. These experts, namely sector directors, are responsible to ensure that projects in their respective sector are well prepared and to drive the project implementation up to the construction phase. For projects that are already in the construction phase, sector directors are responsible to ensure that project delivery is on time and to provide support to troubleshoot any emerging issue. Moreover, the sector directors are also required to analyze constraints on the project delivery, needs for regulation improvement, and other acceleration efforts in that sector, which in the long run could be applied to other projects. There are also other specialists supporting the implementation of Kppip mandates, which are procurement team, communication specialists, capacity building expert, legal consultant, and the administration team. The program director and the sector director are supported by a group of PMO supporting consultants. The supporting consultants work together hand in hand with the directors in doing analysis and stakeholder management. Supporting consultants ensure that all monitoring and debottlenecking strategies are well implemented. Supporting consultants also act as counterbalance against consultants hired to perform project preparation studies. The availability of supporting consultants ensures Kppip solve the problems at both conceptual and technical level. As mentioned before, Kppip has finalized resources to appoint consultants and advisors to prepare the project as external consultants. In the implementation, Kppip has appointed consultants to develop the outline business case of Bontang Refinery, Kuala Tanjung International Harport, Bitung International Harport, Yogyakarta Bawen Toll Road, and other studies. As the main objective of Kppip establishment is to become the coordinating unit in decision-making processes and to act as the point of contact to facilitate coordination in debottlenecking efforts for national strategic projects and priority projects. Kppip PMO identify and fully understand there are a large range of stakeholders with their own role, which Kppip PMO must synergize. Type of stakeholders involved can be divided into four main types, namely central government, local government, state-owned enterprises, and private investor. These stakeholders not including the international donors and agencies, which are sometimes providing funding for the project. For central government stakeholders, Kppip PMO has facilitated infrastructure project preparation studies for aligned ministries. PMO has also monitored progress of infrastructure projects in collaboration with President Office and Government International Auditor. Besides that, Kppip PMO has spearheaded the bottlenecking effort of infrastructure projects, especially those that require cross-ministry coordination, and lastly, formulated breakthrough policies that eliminate infrastructure delivery hindrance. At the local government level, Kppip PMO has held capacity building for infrastructure project preparation and transaction, and also supported the bottlenecking effort, especially those require coordination between central and local governments, even those involving very technical and political dispute. On different level, which is the SOE and private investor, Kppip PMO has firstly eased and standardized project information disbursement of PPP opportunities for private entities and SOE. Secondly, establish clear investment pathway for PPP projects. And lastly, enhance private and government quality of communication. And lastly, for the international donors and agency, Kppip play a role that number one is sharing cooperation opportunity between donors and government. And lastly, finding common ground for donor agencies and government development agenda. Now let us talk about the objective of Kppip. To talk about the objective, let's start from vision and mission. As a committee, Kppip has set a vision and mission statement to support the provision of high-quality prioritized infrastructure. Kppip vision is to become the champion in the management and provision of infrastructure priority projects and national strategic projects in Indonesia. Indonesia needs to move fast and be effective as possible in managing project delivery. In addition, the importance to enhance private participations and reduce state budget reliance requires a new set of capacities and capabilities. To achieve this vision, Kppip PMO has a crucial role to play. Kppip PMO, which consists of professionals as mentioned earlier, possess experience to plan, prepare, and execute projects from the private sector and, therefore, they are trusted to assess the issues hindering projects, recommend the required solutions, and lead the executions. At the missions part, Kppip missions are to serve as single point contact in providing priority infrastructure to lead the project coordination to be timely executed within budget and highly qualified, and to enhance and facilitate capacity building of Government Contracting Agency or GCA in the provision of infrastructure. Let us start with the mission to be the single point of contact for priority infrastructure. In Indonesia, the monitoring of project data and status was not centralized yet. Different entities were monitoring thousands of projects in different ways for different purposes. As a result, there were confusion on which report is the right one to refer to or the latest one, and the data itself could not be used effectively to measure delays and achievement. PMO is supporting Kppip committee in formulating a technology-driven project monitoring system and database, especially on the national strategic and priority projects. The database is currently used by the entities such as the President's and Vice President's Office, State Auditor, and the National Investment Agency to retrieve project updates. Infrastructure project involves multiple stakeholders such as ministries, regional government, state-owned enterprises, private entities, multilateral agencies, local communities, and many more. Regardless of the common goal to provide the necessary infrastructure, Each stakeholder has its own priorities, interests, and processes. In supporting Kppip to coordinate all of them, the PMO develops relationships at all levels, chairs routine technical meetings, and closely monitors progress to ensure that the project still follows the agreed action plans and schedule. Last but not least, on the capacity building level. Skills and capacity improvement are constantly needed to deliver projects, particularly in developing countries like Indonesia. The required skills vary from the understanding of innovative funding scheme, tender preparation, and pre-feasibility study development. A growing government contracting agency should have improved knowledge to prepare and implement projects with the standard accepted by local and international markets, so more investors are coming in. In addition to providing new sources of funding, this would also increase competition and transfer of knowledge. The PMO mission is to identify the gaps and develop capacity building program. Moreover, the PMO is also able to facilitate the training session and guide the project owners during the implementation. Beyond meeting the vision and mission statement, Kppip PMO has a responsibility to ensure the implementation of Kppip main objective, as well as providing recommendations to the implementation team. To accomplish that, Kppip PMO can formulate recommendations on policy and regulations, developing strategies related to infrastructure delivery, monitoring project progress, and conducting analysis for debottlenecking, as stipulated in the Presidential Regulation No. 755, 2014. Kppip as a whole have 5 main objectives, which are: Number 1. The development of pre-feasibility study or outline business case quality standard, and revise or review the outline business case when necessary within 3 to up to 6 months. In meeting this particular objective, the Kppip PMO has developed the outline business case guideline as the standard for every outline business case facilitated by Kppip. Kppip PMO also support the monitoring, debottlenecking, and coordination process of OBC development. An example of this is in 2017 that we successfully supported the OBC development of 2 projects. First one was the Yogyakarta Bawen Toll Road project, and second one was the International Hub Port of Bitung. The second objective is facilitating the preparation of priority projects. In order to meet so, the Kppip carry out the following. A. Supporting the selection of priority project where we, as a Kppip PMO, develop the methodology and detailed criteria to prioritize the project. B. Support the determination of funding scheme and source for priority projects, including developing recommendations based on our deep analysis we conducted. An example of this, Kppip PMO has developed recommendations for Serang Panimbang Toll Road to be the pioneer in implementing the availability payment scheme in Toll Road project. C. Preparing the pre-feasibility study itself. D. Carry out land acquisition and permit issuance support. An example of this effort was Kppip PMO supported the establishment of National Asset Management Agency in Indonesia to provide new land funding scheme. Currently, we are actively monitoring and debottlenecking the implementation of this particular structure or scheme. The third objective is monitoring and debottlenecking of priority projects itself. In carry out this particular objective, we use various debottlenecking approach and tools depending on the complexity of the project. Periodically, we arrange Kppip ministerial level meeting to discuss complex and cross-sectoral issues on the project. The fourth objective is determining and implementing strategy and policy for infrastructure delivery acceleration. To meet this particular objective, we work closely with all related stakeholders, starting from issue identification, policy development, up to the monitoring and evaluation processes of the project progress itself. The last objective is facilitating capacity and institutional building related to priority infrastructure delivery. On this particular topic, we have successfully held several capacity building events for related stakeholders and discussing various relevant topics. Overall, the Kppip PMO has a responsibility to ensure the implementation of Kppip main tasks, as well as providing recommendations to the implementing team. As a Kppip backroom, the PMO can formulate recommendations on policy and regulation, develop capacity building strategies related to infrastructure delivery, monitoring project progress, and conducting analysis for prioritization. PMO Kppip has supported the committee to set its pathway in implementing the mandates from its establishment in 2014, where it leads 2019 goal to create a sustainable process in national strategic project and priority delivery. This is being done by developing the long and short-term business plan. In 2015, PMO Kppip helped the committee to prepare the operational and building the image of Kppip by developing the SOP and mechanism of monitoring and debottlenecking, developing the organization and the procurement method, and mapping the required policy improvement. In the following year, to help strengthening the institutional, PMO Kppip identified issues in infrastructure, especially in priority projects delivery, and conducted socialization and capacity building with focus on the SOP understanding, outlined business case development guidance, and monitoring. In 2017, the target was to create the conducive system and environment for the acceleration of infrastructure projects delivery by 1. Focusing on debottlenecking the issues in priority projects. 2. Building the stakeholders' capacity, especially in funding and independent monitoring and debottlenecking. 3. Implementing the developed infrastructure policy. 4. And the last, supporting the government contracting agency to debottleneck selected national strategic projects according to the committee direction. The focus of this year is to implement the national strategic project and priority project delivery by ensuring the achievement of targeted construction start period or financial close period. As highlighted before, there are a number of functions that Kppip must carry out. The first function of Kppip, as mandated in the Presidential Regulation No. 75/2014, states that Kppip is responsible for monitoring and controlling the implementation of strategies and policies to accelerate the provision of priority infrastructure. To achieve that mandate, Kppip PMO works very closely with all stakeholders in identifying and formulating, as well as implementing strategies and policy to accelerate the provision of infrastructure. The Kppip PMO applies a framework structure in managing the strategy and policy aspect pertinent to infrastructure acceleration. The first step of this framework is identification of the issues, where the Kppip PMO conducts close coordination with all related stakeholders to identify issues in encountering the project delivery. The second step is prioritization itself. In this particular step, the Kppip PMO prioritizes the issue that were identified in the first step. Prioritization is carried out based on several criteria, including the potential impact of issue. The third step is the development of strategy and policy required to solve the prioritized issues. This is developed together with the relevant stakeholders. The Kppip PMO may provide support in coordinating or providing critical input in the development of these strategies and policy. In a way, we empower the designated government entity in driving a certain policy forward in the spirit of infrastructure acceleration. The fourth step is the development of an implementation plan. In this step, Kppip PMO maps out the following action required to establish certain regulatory framework needed for a proposed policy. It is critical that the proposed policy are followed through all the way to the issuance and the implementation of technical regulation. The fifth step is more on the coordination of the stakeholder. In this particular step, coordination with relevant stakeholders is being done to ensure that the implementation plan is well executed. This entails activities such as dissemination of information and capacity building. The last step in this framework is monitoring and evaluation, which is done with the aim of ensuring that implementation is properly done and potential improvements are being identified and carried out. The evaluation in this step will lead to further strategy and policy improvement if required. One example of infrastructure policy championed by the Kppip PMO is the development of funding strategies including brownfield infrastructure utilization scheme in order to enhance greenfield asset funding capacity. Kppip PMO also championed various efforts to accelerate land acquisition processes for infrastructure projects, including land acquisition funding mechanism by private developer. On the second function, which is project preparation, PMO Kppip actively support in 7 particular items. Number 1, selection of priority projects itself. Number 2, determination of priority projects action plan. Number 3, budget allocation for project preparation. Number 4, preparation of pre-feasibility study. Number 5, determination of funding scheme. Number 6, land acquisition support. Number 7, permit issuance support. On the third function, one of the Kppip mandate is monitoring the priority projects and national strategic projects. PMO Kppip has created a system where the project owner can report the project information and updates. The system includes 5 different aspects. Aspect number 1, project status overview dashboard that shows the overall progress, achievement, and current issues. Aspect number 2, milestone analytical dashboard, which shows the potential issues based on the planning and the actual progress. Aspect number 3, project performance, which shows detailed information on the progress, including preparation progress, issue, and risk. Aspect number 4, data web service and batch uploader, which feature the data maintenance and provides convenience for the data uploading processes. And the last aspect, which is the project risk issue dashboard. This particular aspect shows the risk mitigation and debottlenecking issue. The compiled information of national strategy projects can be accessed by the President and other stakeholders. Objective: debottlenecking. Infrastructure provision in Indonesia is often facing different challenges throughout the project cycles on different project sectors. Over the period of Kppip existence, there are mainly 4 issues that were reported from the project delivery team. These are land provision, project preparation, funding, permit and construction. Each issue comes in different level of complexities, and the PMO actively conduct debottlenecking approach to address them. The approach comprises of, firstly, coordinating meeting with the stakeholders related. On this particular subject, we understand that the infrastructure provisions involve various stakeholders, namely the government, which consisted of ministries, institutions, regional governments, SOEs, and also regional-owned enterprises. And lastly, the private sector itself. Such a large range of stakeholders, each having its own objective and responsibilities, has the potential to cause delays to the implementation of infrastructure projects. Kppip PMO's main objective is ensuring the committee of Kppip to become a coordinating unit in making the decision processes to encourage settlement of issues arising from the lack of effective coordination between the various stakeholders. Kppip PMO supporting this role of committee as the point of contact to facilitate coordination in the bottlenecking effort for the national strategic project and priority project. The second approach is by conducting regulatory analysis by experts. In carrying out the analysis, Kppip PMO has helped the committee to fulfill its duty in conducting regulatory analysis by recommending improvement and coordinating the processes to issue regulations and policy related to infrastructure. The third approach is by conducting independent study or technical analysis by consultant or ministries. These were achieved by a reviewing of studies such as feasibility studies among ministries, which may take months. As a result, the approval processes may be delayed. B. The Kppip PMO facilitates the mobilization of various government agencies and private sector consultants to undertake feasibility studies, prepare tenders, and monitor implementation of selected projects. The last approach is by carrying out the top-down intervention, such as regulation policy amendment and instruction from the president to minister. To achieve this, the PMO supporting the committee in providing recommendation for solution or next steps, which needs to be decided at the presidential level. Objective capacity building. As stipulated in the Presidential Regulation No. 75, year 2014, one of the Kppip main mandates is to facilitate capacity building for all stakeholders related to the provision of proprietary infrastructure. Kppip PMO makes the capacity building activity as one of its high priority in its operations, since among others, progress of projects is ultimately driven by project owners' capability and capacity in delivering projects. In fulfilling the capacity building mandate, the PMO strategy is to conduct capacity building activities based on actual case projects and stakeholders need to carry out during the project implementation. To achieve that particular objective, there are 3 aspects that Kppip PMO used to approach this. Firstly, the Kppip PMO developed various guidelines and documents that could be used as references by stakeholders in project implementation. For example, the PMO developed the outline business case and infrastructure lifecycle guideline. In developing this guideline, Kppip worked closely with relevant government stakeholders such as Ministry for National Development Planning, Ministry of Finance, and sectoral line ministries. The PMO has also consulted private sectors, international lenders, and financiers to ensure that Kppip guidelines and standards were in line with the international accepted market standards. On the second activity, Kppip PMO conducts various training activities to increase the capacity of stakeholders in project implementation. Over the years, Kppip PMO has conducted numerous capacity building activities involving hundreds of participants on diverse topics such as alternative funding schemes for project implementation, general institutional capacity building, project monitoring utilizing state-of-the-art IT systems, and etc. The last activity to ensure that capacity building activities will produce maximum impact to all parties involved. The PMO has devised several key principles in delivering its capacity building program and activities. Firstly, stakeholders mapping. The PMO developed mapping of relevant stakeholders and their capacity building needed. Secondly, the stakeholder engagement itself. One of the most important components of Kppip's capacity building program is to work alongside targeted audience or stakeholders during the implementation and development of Kppip capacity programs. Thirdly, the expert facilitation. On this particular one, to ensure high quality delivery of Kppip capacity building, PMO Kppip engaged highly competent experts in the field of concern to facilitate capacity building activities. Aside from developing guidelines and conducting capacity building activities, the PMO also publishes various educational material in the form of webinar that can be accessed by all stakeholders, including the general public, via Kppip website. In developing this particular webinar, Kppip PMO continues to perform documentation of project debottlenecking activities, perform codification and analysis of debottlenecking cases, and then extract lessons learned from each case. Kppip's in-house expert and personnel will then deliver the webinar material based on its area of expertise. With all the efforts being carried out, we can see the result up to present. As explained before, Kppip is responsible for the monitoring and delivery of national strategic projects in Indonesia, which has been effectively carried out since 2016. The result can be seen on this particular slide. Firstly, the amount of PSN projects have experienced changes which are stipulated in the respective precedent regulations. Initially in 2016, there were 225 projects and one electricity program included in the list. However, this list was amended in 2017. The list now includes 245 projects, one electricity program, and one airplane industry program. The change was made due to 15 projects being taken out, 20 projects having been completed, and the inclusion of an additional 55 projects and one airplane industry program. Prior to reaching completion, Kppip categorized projects in 4 phases, starting with preparation phase, followed by the transaction phase, then construction phase, before finally reaching operation phase. However, some circumstances may determine some projects to be in partial operation phase. In terms of projects in preparation phase, there has been an improvement from 81 projects in 2016 to 59 projects and the airplane industry program in 2017. Projects in transaction phase have also progressed from 13 projects in 2016 to 6 projects in 2017. Projects in construction phase have increased from 97 projects in one electricity program in 2016 to 156 projects and one electricity program in 2017. However, out of those projects in construction phase, 37 projects and one electricity program was already partially operating in 2017. Meanwhile, an additional 14 projects will be taken out of the PSN list. Over the next few slides, I will explain about the milestones of Kppip on a yearly basis, which I will categorize in terms of policy, project, and institution. The legal basis of Kppip establishment was issued in July 2014, with the issuance of Presidential Regulation No. 75, 2014. Within 6 months of its establishment, Kppip narrowed down the national strategic projects to priority projects. Institutionally, the decision was also made related to which minister will become members of Kppip. The year 2015 was the year of Kppip institutional building. I was appointed as the program director. Within 4 months, key members of the Kppip PMO were hired, and procurement processes for the project facility were prepared. Foundations to the Kppip PMO were established, such as the Kppip SOP, Standard Operational Procedures, the Outline Business Case Guideline, the PMO structure, and the selection of priority projects. The Kppip PMO also immediately got to work on project-related matters. Such initiatives included the outline business case for the first refinery initiated with PPP scheme in Indonesia, which is Bontang Refinery. The second initiative is value for money analysis for the first toll road initiated with affordability payment. And the last initiative is the environmental impact assessment for Panimang Serang Toll Road to accelerate land acquisition process. In 2016, the important decisions were made on policy level. Those decisions include first, the establishment of a clear infrastructure project pipeline to start construction by 2019. Second, enablement of direct appointment of regional SOE to speed up local infrastructure delivery. Third, the establishment of a dedicated fund allocation for infrastructure land acquisition. And fourth, establish mechanism to enable affordability payment on regional level infrastructure PPP or public-private partnership. To support project acceleration, the following action was studied by Kppip. First, the outline business case for Indonesia's first international hub port. Secondly, an economic price study for Indonesia's largest refinery. Thirdly, the environmental impact assessment for the first special economic zones in Papua, which is located on the eastern part of Indonesia. Fourth, an institutional study on funding for delivering infrastructure in Indonesia was conducted. In 2016, Kppip conducted crucial actions to improve its function as an institution. First, the Kppip organization added the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs as Vice Chairman, and the Minister of Environment and Forestry as a member of Kppip. Second, sectoral experts were hired as project director in February 2016, which enabled the PMO to start tackling issues in priority projects. Lastly, a consultant team was hired to support the PMO. In 2017, Kppip supported further infrastructure-related milestones in Indonesia. With regards to policy reform related to infrastructure, a breakthrough was made with the issuance of a general regulation, which solved the issues of spatial planning non-compliance for PSN, or National Strategic Project. In the electricity sector, a policy was made which allowed the project owner to directly appoint its subsidiaries to provide electricity in the spirit of acceleration. In the upstream oil and gas sector, crucial changes were made to the key production sharing contract, cost recovery, and income tax arrangement aimed at attracting investors in the upstream oil and gas sector. On a project level, the following milestones were achieved. Firstly, construction of the first PPP project with affordability payment in technology sector in Indonesia was commenced. Secondly, PPP scheme was implemented for the first city-wide drinking water supply project. Thirdly, over seven-fold increase of IPP power projects reaching financial close was achieved compared to previous average. Fourth, PPP contract signing was conducted for 4 toll road projects which will add 377.7 km long road. In 2017, Kppip continued to support institutional reform. The first reform was on the major steps forward were made by a project owner to implement PPP projects and reduce reliance on state budget and SOE. The second part of reform is a list of priority projects was conducted to receive land acquisition fund from National Asset Management Agency to ensure efficient and effective allocation. Lastly, refinement of the project list and additional facilities were made to ease project provision. This year in 2018, Kppip continues to make strides in developing infrastructure in Indonesia. On a policy level, preparation is underway for establishment of the legal basis for asset recycling initiative as an innovative funding source for infrastructure in Indonesia. A major regulation was passed, which allowed for reduction of corporate income tax for certain pioneering industry to attract more investment. Completion of 30 national strategic projects as well as 37 projects and 1 program partially operating show positive progress. Also, regulation was amended which allowed for more flexibility for investors in the event of force majeure due to natural disasters. To use Indonesia's first city-wide drinking water supply system in West Semarang as an sample for project progress in 2018, this project has begun its public-private partnership tender in January 2018. Finalization and approval of the business plan by the central and regional government is also in ongoing process. Kppip continues to support institutional reform in 2018. Firstly, a breakthrough effort in project monitoring using satellite surveillance with the State Intelligence Agency. Secondly, direct monitoring access enablement of the IT system from Kppip and project owners. Thirdly, an innovative way is underway to accelerate procurement with the predetermination of consulting panel. Lastly, reform which would enable National Asset Management Agency to pay land acquisition costs directly to the implementation agency. On this particular map, we can see example of Kppip impact actualized on a project level. The Palapa Ring project is the first fiber optic network construction project which will serve as the backbone of the national telecommunication system that reaches all cities and districts in Indonesia. This project is divided into 3 packages. The West package was completed in March 2018. The Central package will be completed in mid-2018. Meanwhile, the East package will be completed by the end of 2018. There are also significant milestones to be achieved in the transport sector which have been supported by Kppip PMO. Indonesia will have its first light rail transit (LRT) and mass rapid transport operating very soon in the capital city of Indonesia. The first LRT will operate later in 2018 to support the Asian Games in South Sumatra and Jakarta. Meanwhile, the first MRT will operate in 2019, spanning across 15 km long in Jakarta. Indonesia will also have its first high-speed railway across 150 km long between Jakarta and Bandung. Outside Java Island, there will also be major milestones in the transport sector. For example, Sulawesi Island will have its first operating railway in 2018 between Makassar and Parepare. In the power sector, Kppip has focused its debottlenecking effort on large-scale independent power producer projects. IPP accounts for around 70% of Indonesia's 35,000 megawatt program. To put its contract throughout 2010-2015, only an average of around 1.8 gigawatt or 1,800 megawatt of power project reached financial close on a bi-yearly basis. However, over the past 2 years, with increased coordination and debottlenecking led by Kppip PMO, that figure has increased to 13.8 gigawatt. This represents over a 7-fold increase in the magnitude of our project reaching financial close. In the toll road sector, increased coordination and debottlenecking has resulted in the length of operating toll roads in Indonesia to reach 398 km by March 2018. A major benefit for the nation of Indonesia is the recent development of the first toll road outside the densely populated Java Island, namely the Trans-Sumatra Toll Road in Sumatra, the Balikpapan Samarinda Toll Road in Kalimantan, and Manado Bitung Toll Road in Sulawesi. So finally, let's talk about the next steps of Kppip PMO. On this particular slide, you can see what's going to be the target of the project itself. Kppip PMO aims to drive all the projects in the National Strategic Projects list. They are still in preparation to start the construction in Q3 of 2019. The targeted accomplishment in 2019 for the National Strategic Projects are: number 1, adding 25 projects that are completed in 2019 so that the accumulated total of completed projects are 68 projects. Number 2, the accumulated total of projects in construction and partial operation will be 94 projects and 2 programs. Number 3, the accumulated total projects in construction will be 86 projects and 1 program. And lastly, the total of projects that reach financial close and ready to start construction will be 3 projects. In addition to the project target list and in accordance to the business plan, Kppip PMO drive the achievement of 2019 goal to create a sustainable process in national strategic projects and priority project delivery. As addressed in the business plan for 2019, this will include: number 1, focusing on implementing the priority project and national strategic projects to ensure the project timeliness and approval of funding and project quality from stakeholders. Number 2, conducting the debottlenecking to achieve project delivery target. Number 3, improving infrastructure policy to achieve infrastructure projects delivery target. Number 4, supporting the government contracting agency in conducting independent debottlenecking. Lastly, building the stakeholders' capacity, especially in the structure contract administration. To summarize our presentation, we would like to highlight again the point that the Committee for Acceleration of Priority Infrastructure Delivery, or Kppip, is formed as the Center of Excellence for Priority Infrastructure Projects Acceleration and Preparation. As part of institutional reform of Government of Indonesia and in order to increase Indonesia's economic growth through infrastructure development, Kppip is being equipped with the Project Management Office, or PMO, consisted of professionals with private sector background. They are running the day-to-day operation and conducting analysis behind the organization decision-making about priority project selection, debottlenecking, and policy development. In the implementation, Kppip PMO is currently managing the national strategic projects, consisted of 245 projects and 2 programs, with a total value of $327.2 billion in investment. From the National Strategic Project List, Kppip selected a group of project priorities to be fully supported in their delivery acceleration. Currently, there are 37 priority projects with a total investment value of $132 billion. Up to 2017, there have been a number of achievements set by the Kppip. This would include a financial close of the total of 9,000 megawatt power plants. B. The preparation of the first toll road using the availability payment scheme. C. Resolving land acquisition issue of the largest PPP project in power plant sector in Indonesia, which has been delayed for 4 years. Fourth and lastly, led the development of the first asset recycling policy of existing assets. On behalf of the Kppip, we would like to thank you for your attention, and we are very grateful to be given an opportunity to be part of this PMO Global Awards.